Before she comes back, something shifts, and it's almost never obvious. At first, it's not a grand apology or a dramatic confession. It's quiet, subtle, almost like she's testing the water without getting wet. Her tone changes. There's less ego, more softness. She might ask about something random or just react to your story with a simple emoji, but don't be fooled. These aren't coincidences. They're signals, and they always show up before the message that says, "I miss you." Most men don't recognize these signs for what they are. They either ignore them completely, or worse, they get pulled in too soon. They think she's ready to come back. But here's the truth. This moment isn't about her return, it's about your response. And that's where the Stoic man stands apart in this video. We're going to break down exactly what always happens before she tries to come back, what signs to look for, how to stay grounded, and why your calm, composed energy speaks louder than any text ever could stay with me. Because understanding this moment could be the difference between repeating the cycle or finally breaking free from it. Number 1, the space she didn't expect. The space she didn't expect. It doesn't begin with words. It begins with what's not said. The pause, the absence, but more importantly, your absence-see. After the last message fades, most men rush to fill the void. They send a meme check-in with a casual, "just thinking of you," or try to keep the connection alive, but not the Stoic man. He resists that urge, not out of pride, but out of principle. This isn't just about saying nothing. It's about holding your position when everything in you wants to reach back out that space. It's where she watches closely. She doesn't say it, but she's testing something. Your emotional discipline. She wants to know if the man who once claimed he had standards will now bend them just to be noticed again. And when you don't, that absence hits differently, it shifts the dynamic. I know it's not easy. There's a part of you that wants to make sense of what happened to fix it, to make sure she didn't misunderstand your intentions. But maybe the most powerful thing you can do is nothing not to manipulate, but to preserve your dignity, to let your actions align with your values, instead of your emotions. She might have ghosted you, left you on red. No explanation, just disappeared, and every instinct in you wants to react to reach for certainty, but that uncertainty, that's the moment she begins to feel something too. Because when a man doesn't rush to close the gap, when he holds the line, with calm conviction, it stands out, it plants a seed. You're not trying to get a reaction. You're proving to yourself that you no longer need one. Your strength lies in not responding, in being okay with the unknown. And here's what usually happens. She notices slowly at first, a random, like a memory brought up out of nowhere. Her curiosity grows because you didn't flinch, because while she expected desperation, she found depth. That's the moment that matters, not what you say next, but that you didn't say anything at all. You stood firm, you respected your peace, and in doing so you reminded her of the man she underestimated. That's what shifts the power. Not noise, but presence. Hold that space. Let her be the one who breaks it. Number 2. Curiosity wakes up first. Curiosity wakes up first when you stop chasing something. Awakens in her curiosity. Why isn't he reaching out? Is he over? Has he changed? That quiet confidence you carry starts to whisper louder than any text could. And here's where Stoicism speaks volumes. Real presence doesn't beg for attention. It creates it. A man rooted in discipline doesn't seek validation. He becomes the validation and that energy. She feels it, even if she won't admit it. At first, she may welcome the silence. She might even enjoy the space, thinking it gives her control. But as time passes and your name doesn't light up her phone like it used to, a shift begins. Subtle, slow, but very real. That shift is curiosity. Suddenly she checks your profile. She looks for clues in your stories, notices who you've been around, wonders why you're quiet but not broken. She might bring you up in passing with a friend, scroll back to an old conversation, or pause a little longer on a memory that once felt ordinary. That's what always happens before she comes back. Her mind reaches for you. Before her words, ever will you see. Most men crumble in this silence. They try to force clarity. They reach out hoping to spark what used to be. But the Stoic man doesn't play that game. He lets nature take its course. He knows that curiosity is the mind's way of trying to reconnect with something it once took for granted. And instead of feeding it with attention, he feeds himself with growth, clarity, and peace. Like Epictetus taught, don't explain your philosophy, embody it. That's what you're doing when you stay composed. You're not just silent, you're centered. You're not punishing her with absence, you're protecting your peace. This is the moment where you're emotional. Detachment begins to reshape how she sees you, not as the man who waited for her to decide, but as the man who became better, regardless of her decision. That contrast between who you were when she left and who you are now in your stillness. That's what triggers her curiosity. That's what keeps her thinking long after you've stopped reaching. So I want you to reflect on something. Have you ever noticed how curiosity sneaks in just when you finally let go? When you stopped checking her status, she started checking yours. That's no coincidence. That's the echo of your growth reaching her. If you felt that shift, or if you're in that season right now, leave a comment below and say, I choose presence, not pursuit. Let's talk about it. Number 3. Emotional check-ins through others. Check-ins through others. Before she reaches out, she'll often ask someone else about you, a mutual friend, a cousin. She still follows a subtle conversation where your name just happens to come up. It might look innocent on the surface, but it's rarely random. It's a soft return, a way of peeking into your world without stepping directly into it. Instead of texting you, she might scroll through your older pictures, check if you're still posting, or react to something vague that allows her to stay in the shadows. It's how she reassures herself that the door might still be open without having to knock on it. And here's the test. Will you respond to that energy? Most men do. They hear from someone, hey, she was asking about you. And suddenly they light up, convinced it means something more. They take it as permission to reach out to reopen the story, but the Stoic man doesn't see indirect attention as a signal to abandon his posture. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, if you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it. You don't inflate her curiosity into a promise. You don't turn observation into obligation. She might be watching, but you don't perform. She might be wondering, but you don't explain. You continue living your life, not to prove a point, but because that's what a man of principle does. He walks with direction, not distraction, and when others mention her name or tell you she's still asking you, receive it with calm detachment. That's not coldness, it's clarity, because what's meant for you won't hide behind third-party messengers or cryptic likes. It'll show up fully, this emotional check-in phase. It almost always happens before she comes back. It's how she gauges your emotional temperature. Have you moved on? Are you still open? Do you still care? And in that space of wondering, she starts to feel your absence more vividly. Not because you're trying to make her miss you, but because you haven't paused your life for her return. That's where the power shift happens. She left thinking she could always come back to the same version of you. But now through others, she's hearing about a man who didn't collapse, who didn't chase, who didn't reach out to reclaim what wasn't meant to be held. She expected you to wait, but now she's realizing she's the one watching from afar. And that shift, that quiet realization, it's one of the last things she'll feel. Right before she comes back, her memories will betray her. Number 4. Her memories will betray her. You don't need to remind her of the good times life will, and it won't be in dramatic movie-like moments. It'll be subtle, unexpected. She'll hear a song in a cafe, the one you both use to sing under your breath during long drives, and suddenly she's not just listening. She's feeling. She'll walk past someone wearing your cologne, and for a split second her heart will skip. Not because she saw you, but because she thought she might. That old hoodie she still has buried in her closet one lazy Sunday. She'll throw it on without thinking, and the weight of it will remind her of you, of your presence, your stillness, your warmth. That's the thing about memories. They don't follow the rules. They show up when you're least ready, and when they hit, they don't ask how she feels. They tell her, and while she's caught off guard by the past, you're not, because you've made peace with it. You've moved from reflection to progression. A Stoic man doesn't avoid memories, but he doesn't get trapped in them either. He uses them to sharpen his clarity, to ask, what did I learn from that season? How did it mould me? And then he moves forward quietly, stronger, more focused. She, on the other hand, starts to see the contrast. You're not frozen in time. Like the version she left, you're evolving. And that evolution, that growth that she can only witness from a distance, is what shifts the emotional tide. It makes the good times feel sacred again. It makes her realize those moments weren't just good because they were convenient. They were good because you were in them. That realization never hits all at once. It builds, it brews, and eventually it becomes undeniable. But here's where most men sabotage it. They chase that nostalgia. They try to recreate it. They send the old playlist, they say, remember when? And in doing so, they remind her not just of the good, but also of why she walked away. A Stoic man does the opposite. He lets life remind her. He trusts the process. He knows that if she truly valued it, her own memories will start working against her. So if she comes back, it won't be because you begged or tried to make her remember. It'll be because her own mind did that for you. And when that happens, she'll see something else. Your stillness, your peace, your refusal to chase wasn't cold. It was strength. It was self-respect, and that, more than any memory, is what she won't be able to forget. She mirrors your growth. Number 5. She mirrors your growth. You start improving physically, emotionally, mentally, and soon enough, so does she, not always out of inspiration, sometimes out of fear of being left behind. The Stoic doesn't evolve to be seen. He evolves because peace demands it. But this is what most men don't notice when you stop chasing. When you stop checking her page, when you stop posting to get a reaction, and start truly leveling up for yourself. The ripple effect begins quietly, subtly. She feels it. She sees it, even if she pretends not to. You hit the gym. Not for revenge, not for attention, but for discipline. And what happens? A few weeks later, she's back to posting fitness content, showing up more on social media. You start building your business, your craft, your mind. And she begins to talk about purpose, vision, change. This isn't a random coincidence. It's what often happens before she ever reaches out. She mirrors your movement, not because you told her to, but because something in her recognizes that you're no longer the same man she left. And that realization, it's uncomfortable. It shakes her ego. You've become a reflection of who she thought she'd outgrow, but now you're outgrowing her stoicism. Reminds us not to perform for applause. You train, you read, you improve, not to impress but to honor your nature. Marcus Aurelius didn't write meditations for an audience. He wrote them for himself. And that's how growth works. It's not loud, but it echoes. It's not broadcasted, but it's noticed, especially by the one who thought you'd stay the same. So before she calls, before she texts, before she sends that, just wondering how you're doing? Message? There's usually a period of mimicry, a silent race to become worthy again in your eyes. And this is where most men stumble. They pause their growth the moment they feel her energy return. But the Stoic doesn't turn back. He keeps going because the goal was never to make her chase. It was to become the man who no longer needs the chase. So if you see her suddenly evolving too, take it as a sign, not to reattach, but to stay your course. She may be mirroring your growth, but that doesn't mean she's matching your depth. Let her actions speak before her words arrive. And even then, remember, your growth is yours. It's not bait, it's a boundary. Keep rising and let the world, here included, catch up on their own terms. If this hits something in you, drop a comment and share your thoughts, or just type, "I grow for me" below. Let's hear your journey. Number 6. She drops subtle signals, not grand gestures. She drops subtle signals, not grand gestures. Don't expect a dramatic return. No big apology, no flowers, just a hey or a reaction to your story. That's how it starts. Not with a bang, but with a whisper. She'll test the surface, not dive in. It's not about making things right yet. It's about seeing if the door is still slightly open. A like here, a comment there. Maybe she sends a meme you once shared together on the surface. It's nothing but beneath it. It's a soft check-in with your energy, a test of your emotional temperature. And this is exactly what always happens before she comes back. The signs aren't loud, they're cautious, they're subtle because they come from uncertainty. She wants to know, have you moved on? Are you still available? Emotionally, mentally? Has your heart shifted, like hers did when she walked away? Here's where the Stoic mindset becomes essential, because a man who lacks discipline will jump at the first sign of interest. He'll read into every emoji like it's a confession of love. But the Stoic man, he doesn't interpret signals as promises. He doesn't confuse curiosity for commitment. Just because she peeks back in doesn't mean she's ready to return, and that's a truth. Most can't sit with Epictetus said, "Practice yourself for heaven's sake in little things and then proceed to greater." That applies here. Responding to her subtle cues without reacting emotionally is a practice in restraint. A message from her is not a green light. It's just movement, and movement is not always progress. Let's look at an example. She hasn't spoken to you in weeks, out of nowhere. She replies, "Ha, aha," to your story of a dog running into a bush. Does that mean she wants to rebuild what you had? Number. It means she felt safe enough to re-enter the room, just not enough to speak out loud. She's signalling comfort, not clarity. So what do? You observe. You don't shut the door with bitterness, but you don't swing it open either. The disciplined man doesn't treat every knock as destiny. He waits to see who's truly at the door. This part of her return, the uncertain signals. The casual engagement is not the finish line. It's just the beginning. If she's serious, her actions will evolve beyond subtle. But if you react too quickly, too eagerly, you rob her of the very space she needs to come back with intention. So the next time she sends a soft signal, pause. Don't rush to meet it. Don't decode every word. Just notice it, let it land, but don't let it shake. You remember, you're not chasing shadows, you're living in light. Old unfinished conversations. Resurface number 7. Old unfinished conversations. Resurface. She brings up that vacation you never took or the plan you half joked about. It's her way of reopening the door without fully stepping in. Maybe it comes in the form of a random message out of nowhere. Remember? When we almost went to Greece, or I saw that old coffee shop we talked about trying to someone unaware. It might seem like a simple, innocent message, but to the man who understands emotional patterns, it's clear she's not just remembering. She's reaching carefully indirectly. She's tugging on the threads of old connection to see if they still hold. And here's where many men get pulled back in the moment. She reintroduces a shared memory. They jump. They think it's a sign to start planning again, to resume where things left off. But a Stoic man, he doesn't react to sentiment alone. He observes the intention behind it. You see, revisiting old plans without accountability is like rereading a story that never had an ending. It might feel comforting, but it doesn't guarantee resolution. This kind of behaviour often shows up before she returns, because it's a low-risk way for her to feel close again without being vulnerable. It's easier to reference the past than to address the present. Easier to say, "Remember when I miss you?" She may not know where she stands yet, or she may want to know if your door is still unlocked, and she'll use shared nostalgia as a key. But the Stoic man doesn't leave his door open just because someone knocked. He doesn't mistake emotional familiarity for current alignment. As Epictetus taught, first say to yourself what you would be, and then do what you have to do. That means staying committed to the man you are becoming, not the man you were in that memory. So when these old, unfinished conversations resurface, take note, but don't leap. Ask yourself, is she trying to reconnect for real or just trying to feel less distant without doing the real work? Has she come back with presence? Or is she just revisiting the comfort of the past? Because this will almost always happen before she fully returns the soft openings, the subtle signals, the revisiting of plans that were never lived out. But your strength lies in not being swept away by it. Let her words echo, but let your clarity lead. You're not here to relive an old chapter. You're here to write a new one with someone who shows up completely, not just in fragments of what once was. Stay grounded, reflect, don't romanticize. And if you've ever experienced this kind of soft reach out, share your thoughts in the comments or just drop. I won't chase nostalgia. She feels your absence in her routine, number 8. She feels your absence in her routine one day. She notices something missing. Not just you, but the way you made her feel that grounded energy. The calm, steady presence she starts to miss. Not your messages, but your essence. That's why the man who moves on with grace becomes unforgettable. At first, she might not even realize it. Her days continue busy, noisy, full of distractions, but over time something feels off. She can't quite name it. It's not about a missed call or a forgotten birthday. It's deeper. It's the emotional steadiness you brought into her world. She goes to that coffee shop where you used to sit across from her, calm as ever. Listening fully, she doesn't miss your voice. She misses how she felt in your presence, safe-centered. She notices that when something good happens, there's no one who celebrates it with quiet pride the way you did. And when life gets stressful, there's no one whose energy balances hers like yours once did. That absence begins to show up in her routine, in the spaces where you used to be. Not physically, but emotionally. This always happens before she comes back. The Stoics teach that we're to remain anchored, unmoved by praise or rejection, because true power lies in how we carry ourselves, not in how others respond to us. And when a Stoic man detaches not out of anger, but out of peace, he becomes felt in a way that words can't replicate. While other men try to leave a mark through effort, the Stoic man leaves one through essence. He doesn't chase her memories, he becomes a part of them. Eventually, she'll compare, not always consciously, but she'll start to feel the difference. Maybe the man she's talking to now texts often, but the texts don't feel the same. There's no calm, no quiet confidence, no depth behind the words, and suddenly she'll catch herself, wondering why the energy isn't the same, why no one makes her feel as emotionally safe. That's when she realizes it wasn't just about love or attraction, it was about presence. And that was you. You see, this phase is unavoidable before she reaches out, before she sends that "hey," or reacts to your story, or asks a mutual friend about you. She has to fill the void, that gap between the man she once had access to and the man who now walks with purpose without needing to be seen. You're not punishing her with distance. You're simply protecting your peace. And in doing that, you give her something to reflect on what it feels like when a truly grounded man is no longer available. So don't think your absence goes unnoticed. It does not immediately, but eventually. Because when a man like you leaves a woman's life not out of bitterness but out of quiet strength, she doesn't just lose attention, she loses stability, warmth, protection. And those things, they don't get replaced easily. That's why, before she even considers coming back, she'll feel your absence. Not as a gap in her inbox, but as a gap in her world. Number 9, she starts testing the waters. She starts testing the waters, she might say, just checking in. Or ask out of nowhere, "Hey, do you still go to that gym?" It sounds casual, innocent even, but trust me, it's not about the gym. It's never really about the small talk that's just the surface. What she's actually doing is quietly testing the temperature, seeing if the water's still warm, wondering if there's still space for her in your life without having to admit she wants back in. And this always happens before she comes back to you. Before any real conversation, before any apology, before she dares to open up fully again. She sends feelers because vulnerability is risky and she doesn't want to be the one who walks back into a closed door. So instead, she takes the safe route, a light message, a reaction to your story. A vague question that opens the door just enough for you to either welcome her back or show her that you've moved on. Here's where most men slip. They rush in. They take that hey and run with it. They start pouring out their emotions, trying to reignite what once was. They think her curiosity means commitment, but it doesn't, not yet. A Stoic man sees it differently. He doesn't respond from emotional hunger. He doesn't grasp at old threads, hoping they'll weave a new story. Instead, he pauses. He reads between the lines, but he doesn't cling to them. He understands that not all contact is connection. Not all messages are a return. Some are just echoes, and so he chooses carefully. Not from pride, but from clarity. He doesn't ignore her to punish her, but because he no longer needs her presence to feel whole if he responds. It's intentional, grounded, measured. It comes from a place of fullness, not emptiness. So when she sends that message, your job isn't to decode it. It's to be the man who no longer needs to chase meaning in her breadcrumbs. You simply embody who you are now. Whether she joins you on that path or not. Maybe you reply, maybe you don't. But either way, she'll notice something powerful. The man she once knew doesn't need her return to validate his worth and that calm, grounded energy. That's what lingers. That's what makes her wonder if she was too quick to walk away. So when she tests the waters, don't jump. Stand firm. Let her feel what it's like to face a man who's no longer waiting, just living. If this resonates with you, or you've seen these subtle signs before, leave a comment below or just write, "Breadcrumbs, don't move me." Let's hear your story and help others see the signs without slipping back into old patterns. Number 10. Her words will soften, but Her words will soften, but your standards stay sharp. Standards stay sharp eventually. Her tone shifts. There's less edge in her voice, less pride in her words, more softness. Maybe she sends you a message that feels different. "Hey, I saw something that reminded me of you," or just wanted to check in. "Hope you're doing okay." That subtle warmth, the lack of confrontation, the gentle approach. It's not random, it's a signal, but it's not always a signal of true change. Sometimes it's comforting, sometimes it's curiosity, and sometimes it's her way of testing the waters without making a full commitment. You have to understand something before a woman fully comes back. Her energy changes first, that emotional guard she once used to protect her pride. It starts to lower, but that doesn't mean she's ready to build something new. It might just mean she's feeling the void. And in that moment, most men make the critical mistake. They mistake kindness for clarity, soft words for real depth, a shift in energy for a shift in intention. They throw open the doors and welcome her back without ever asking what's really changed. This is where the Stoic man separates himself because he doesn't get swept away by the moment he understands that not every smile is an invitation and not every message deserves momentum. He listens with a calm mind, not a hungry heart. He receives warmth without assuming its commitment. That's the strength of emotional discipline. Not becoming cold, but becoming clear. Seneca once said, "He who suffers before it is necessary suffers more than is necessary." That applies here. If you accept her back too quickly, before she's actually shown consistency, you're setting yourself up for a second round of pain, because emotion without foundation is just a wave. It feels powerful, but it crashes fast. So what do? You stay grounded. You don't harden your heart, but you sharpen your standards. If she truly wants to reconnect, she'll show it through action. Not just softness, you don't fold just because her tone got sweeter. You don't mistake temporary vulnerability for lasting change. You let her speak. You let her show, and you let time do what time always does, reveal what's real. Because in the end, the man who values himself doesn't chase warmth. He invites alignment. He doesn't need her to return for validation. He needs her to return with truth, consistency, and respect. Anything less is just an echo of the past, and you've already outgrown that chapter. So if you're in that space where she's gone and the silence feels conclusion heavier than words, remember this before she ever comes back. Something deeper happens. The world shifts. The energy changes, and the man who doesn't flinch, who doesn't fold, that man doesn't just get her attention. He earns her respect because presence without desperation is rare, and strength without noise, that's unforgettable. Drop a comment below if you've ever felt that shift, if you've walked through that quiet and came out clearer, or just type, "Stillness is strength." I read every one of them, and your story might be exactly what another man needs to see today. And if this video gave you clarity or helped you take one step back into your power, share it with someone who's still in that storm. We're not here to chase. We're here to grow with peace, with power, and with purpose. Until next time, stay grounded,